Here we go. Okay, give me a thumbs up that you can see the screen, okay?
Yes.
And okay, good. Here we go. All right, well, welcome and thank you, Avunia, thanks for being here again. And we're really excited about today's topic because both Cheyenne and I at different times had comfort zones come up for us, and the idea of stepping outside of our comfort zones and what that actually means. So today we are going to talk about just the comfort zones that we live in and how our thoughts and actions and beliefs can affect whether we actually decide to step outside of that comfort zone or stay in the comfort zone. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Cool.
All right. Let me fix my screen here for a minute. All righty. There we go. Okay. Gosh, it makes my, one second, let me move us over here. Okay, so to grow, we must exit our comfort zones. And I know that we've probably all heard this quote, everything you want is just outside of your comfort zone, but it really is true. And when I was thinking about this presentation, I thought about the fact that deciding to step outside of your comfort zone is so directly related to what happens up in our heads that sometimes we think, oh, all it takes is just trying something new. But really, that is just one little piece of the pie when it comes to stepping outside of our comfort zones. And so when digging into this topic, I really discovered and rediscovered that stepping outside of our comfort zones has more to do with our brains and our minds and our actions and our thoughts than anything else. And I see that Lonnie is here, so I am going to admit her if I can do that. Darn it. Give me 1 second here. It's doing that same thing. Oh gosh, sorry guys. I'm going to stop the screen share for just 1 second so I can admit Lonnie. Okay, there we go. Okay, Lonnie, if you are on, let us know that you got on, okay? I think she's joining now. Okay, that should be better. Okay, so again, to grow and to step outside of our comfort zone, our actions, our thoughts, our mind, our affirmations that we tell ourselves, those all have to match our actions. And previous to the last few years, I was always under the impression that, you know, you just make a decision, you step outside of your comfort zone, you try something new, and then that's stepping outside of your comfort zone. But what happens in that case is that then you come back into your comfort zone if what's up here is not matching what's right here and is not matching our actual actions. So most people go through life with a psychological emergency brake on. So think of a time when you were driving your car and you realized after a block that, oh no, my brake is on. Think to yourself that you just automatically release that brake, right? Most people will go through life with that brake on and forgetting to release the brake and then pushing harder on the gas, but you're not moving as fast or where you want to go because that brake is still on. And the majority of the reason for this is because of our images of ourselves. So what we tell ourselves, what we see ourselves, maybe a past experience that we have had that we haven't been able to let it pass through our bodies. And so those thoughts and actions determine whether we're able to actually step outside of our comfort zone. And we hold on to these negative images or we hold on to these experiences, and whether we know it or not, our subconscious brain says, oh gosh, you know, you're not a public speaker, so don't even try that. Or, oh, you know, I've always wanted to kayak, but I'm afraid of the water, so don't even try that. So whatever it may be, an experience that we've had in the past can hold us back from actually stepping outside of that comfort zone. And it can even go back to our childhood. I mean, depending on how we were treated as a child, or the confidence that our parents gave us or didn't give us, or something that our parents or people that were around us as kids told us, those are the things that we hear at an early age and we hold on to. And maybe they're positive, maybe they're good, and maybe they gave us all the confidence in the world. But there could have also been a time when somebody says, you're too short to play basketball. That happened multiple times. And we hold on to those things and we limit ourselves because of those things. So one thing that I really found liberating, again, is that we have the choice. So staying in our comfort zone is a choice that we get to make, and we get to decide, and we get to give ourselves the opportunity to either stay in or to experience something new. A lot of our can'ts and musts and obligations and things that we've been trained over time, those are the things that we hold on to, and our mind hears ourselves talking about right here over and over, which limit what we're going to actually do. Treyanne, I know you have an amazing insight on this, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, I think what's tough is that we don't really know where our comfort zone is unless we hit it. And what I mean by that is we have to constantly be inviting new experiences to see where that is. And as we grow, our comfort zone grows as well. One of the things I've tried to do the last maybe 5 years is seek out friendships where people are doing things that I'm interested in that are very new to me. One of the things, for an example, would be mountain biking or trail running, things that make me nervous, but I automatically feel more comfortable if I'm with someone who's doing it. And that's a really good example of comfort zone. But comfort zone is all kinds of things. Comfort zone might be having tough conversations. Comfort zone might be applying for a job that is a little out of our experience level. It might be making a new friend. I mean, for some of us, that's even just reaching out to somebody new that we don't already have a connection with. It's pretty intimidating, but these are the things that show us where our edges are. And I think the important thing to stress with this is that it doesn't matter where my comfort zone is versus your comfort zone. The only thing that's important is finding your own comfort zone and pushing up against it a little bit. If we push against it too hard, we create a bunch of cortisol and stress in our bodies, and then it's a negative experience. So, last week we talked about comparison and how important it is not to compare ourselves to others. And this week I want to reweave that in, that your comfort zone is very different than mine, even if we had a parallel upbringing or a parallel physical activity. I may feel a lot less safe doing something you do, even though I'm capable. So I think just being really gentle with yourself in experiencing that comfort zone push.
I love that. Okay, so our zone becomes an endless loop unless we consciously make an effort to step out of it, and unless we are really thinking about what that looks like and what we want to do to change that comfort zone. It can just sort of be this endless loop, like a hamster on a wheel. And I like this image because it kind of gives us a way to see where we are and see where we may need to put the brakes on and step outside of that zone. So basically, our self-talk is what we say to ourselves, obviously, on an ongoing basis, whether we realize it or not. A lot of it is subconscious. But for example, let's just take maybe in college, we did a presentation and it didn't go so well and we got really embarrassed, or maybe it was high school and we told ourselves, I am just not a public speaker. I will never be a public speaker. I don't like speaking in front of groups. But maybe we're given the opportunity to, somebody says, I want you to speak at this event, or maybe it's something that comes up where we think, oh gosh, nope, I'm not a public speaker. I can't do that. So those are the things that we're telling ourselves in our head, which then forms our self-image. So then we say, this is my subconscious picture of myself and I'm just not a public speaker. And then that determines whether we'll say, you know what, I want to try that, or no, I'm not a public speaker, so you got to find somebody else. And then that stimulates more self-talk. So something that I hear over and over and over again is I'm not a morning person. And I know that that is what a lot of people believe because they've never been a morning person. And by that, I don't mean getting up at 4 a.m. I just mean when I reach out to people for working out or for exercising, I always get 2 out of 4 saying I'm not a morning person, so I never will be. And that's fine if you don't want to be, and that's fine if that's not what your thing is. But my point is that whether it's public speaking or a morning person or what it is, we have the ability to let ourselves out of that prison, for example, and to let ourselves experience something different. And I love the thought that most successful people realize that you're never stuck. You can always get unstuck. It just depends on how we talk to ourselves, how we encourage ourselves. And I liked this comparison. I really like images and comparisons. And think of your thermostat. So in the winter, we set our thermostat for 70 degrees, for example. And if it gets below that, it's going to kick on. If it gets above that, it's going to turn off. So if you think of your comfort zone as a thermostat and you've set it at 70 degrees, every time 71 comes about, we have the opportunity to step into that warmer weather. Or if we're staying in our comfort zone, we do what a thermostat does and we kick right back into that comfort zone. I read that the other day and I thought that's an image that I can keep in my head and remember that when that thermostat is going to that level, do I want to consciously take a leap and go out of that, or do I want to stay where I am? And a lot of this takes work, which, I'm working through on an ongoing basis, and I know that we all are, to train our brains and to train our subconscious minds. And by that, we have to work on affirmations and visualization and all of those things that help train our minds to release the brakes or to let ourselves out of that prison that we might be in, which is our comfort zone. I'm going to pass it to Cheyenne to talk a little bit about that, because I know that she is helping me and so many of our other clients with how we talk to ourselves and how our mind can help us to physically take that step out of the zone.
So the most important thing to remember with anything is that we all get stuck. Every one of us gets stuck. Nobody's life flows flawlessly all the time. What I teach my clients is how to get in the flow and notice when you get stuck and what to do with it. Most of the people that come to me have been in a pattern throughout their whole lives where they're able to make progress. They get stuck and they go back to where they were. Mm-hmm. That's normal, because nobody said to us, when you hit up against this wall, this is how you turn the corner the other way. We don't get a handbook. Lethea and I talk about this all the time, is like, if life had a handbook for these things that come up, it'd be a lot easier. That's just not the reality. The trick is that being aware that you're going to hit a wall and taking a pause at the wall to make a better choice. It's absolutely normal to get discouraged when we try to do something that's not working for us. But we get to decide how our attitude moves us. And we're either going to go backwards and medicate with TV, with cell phones, TikTok, alcohol, food, sugar, caffeine, or we're going to pause and look the other way and say, ooh, this is really tough, but I am just as tough. I'm going to make a different choice. I'm going to have the hard conversation. I'm going to eat a cup of vegetables, even though I don't want them. And if I'm still hungry, I'll eat the bite of cookie. I'm going to apply for the job. And if I don't get it, I'm going to keep trying. It's what we do when we get stuck, and knowing that that's going to happen that makes the difference between hitting our goals. When people talk about setting goals, I like for them to hit hash marks between the goal and reaching it. And those hash marks represent, I just hit a speed bump. So that when you're searching for a goal, you kind of have an expectation that speed bumps are going to come, and it doesn't throw you off, of course, the same. Like, think about it when you're riding a bike for 2 miles. There's going to be speed bumps in that 2 miles. And if you think about that before you get on the bike, you're less likely to give up when you hit the first one or first two. And you remember when you come back the other way, there's some speed bumps, but I know how to make my way through it. It's the same way with anything else in our lives. We're going to have speed bumps. It's how we get through it. It's that self-talk. It's always the self-talk as I can do this. And one of the things why we do the coaching that we do, Alethea and I, is we want you to have someone to reach out to when you hit a speed bump, so we can walk you through that and say, okay, we're familiar with this speed bump. Turn around, go this direction, call me tomorrow, tell me how you're feeling. Without fail, 99% of the time when someone reaches out to us just looking for a little support on a speed bump, they overcome that loop.
I love that. And I love the speed bump analogy, because the speed bump can either get us over that hump or can make us go backwards, which I think is really powerful. And another thing that came up when Cheyenne was talking is we can either let the negative comments and thoughts and that speed bump push us back, flood our minds, or we can decide, I don't want those thoughts right now. How am I going to get over the speed bump? Who can help me if I need help getting over that speed bump? And then flood our minds with the positive thoughts. And the choice is ours, which again is easier said than done sometimes, but having that realization that the choice is ours is really liberating.
And also to throw into that, the choice is ours, but who we surround ourselves with is so huge. Mm-hmm. If we have positive people around us, we are more likely to be staying focused on the sun than looking down at the ground. And I can tell you, as someone who has had really positive friends in my life and someone who's had less positive friends in my life, I feel better when the people in my circle are constantly texting me like, hi, how are you? Are you doing good? Let's go do something fun, versus, oh, and this happened and that happened and that happened. You know, you don't want to turn your back on people you care about, but you also want to surround yourself with people who promote the positive self-talk, right? Like, none of us are perfect and we all have bad days, but if we surround ourselves with positivity, it breeds more positivity.
I love that. And this, we've all heard the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. And so I keep thinking of that definition, because a lot of times we want something, but we see ourselves, if we really take a hard look, in that circle that you see on the screen here, just that hamster circle of doing the same things over, but really wanting a different result. So that can be with nutrition, it can be with exercise, it can be with our jobs, whatever it might be. So I love to think of that if we are expecting something different, what are we actually doing to make that happen? And two things that come to my mind in what can you do from here to figure out where you want to step outside of your comfort zone? Because sometimes we don't even know, and we just are living our comfort zone, but we don't know that we're doing that, and we don't know where to go. So I like to do a life in a year, a life in 3 months, a life in 6 months, whatever you choose, and work backwards. So if you had the ideal life in 1 year from today, what would it look like? And it can be whatever time frame, but what would that look like? And actually take a pen and write that down, and write down, what would you do for your job? What would your income be? What would you do with your family? Where would you have traveled? Write down all those things that would, for you, make up that perfect life. And it can be a vision board of things that are big. And when you write down bigger things that scare you, those are the things that are going to get us out of our comfort zone. So once we do that life in a year type of exercise, then we can choose, okay, these are the things I'm going to do today to step outside of my comfort zone. And maybe it's going on a 4.5 mile run on a trail that we wouldn't have done otherwise. Or maybe it is, Lonnie climbing a new hill or mountain that you thought you couldn't do a year ago, or that you didn't feel as good doing. Eugenia, maybe it is sending another recording of your song to me, because I love hearing those, but whatever it might be.
No, mine is moving out of New York City. Let's be honest.
Okay. A year from now, moving out of New York City, or whatever your time frame is. So what are the things that we're going to do to get there? The other thing I like to do is a bucket list, and I like to do 10-year, 5-year, 3-year. Because again, those are things that are on our bucket list, and that may be things that we think, oh, we'll never do it. I would love to do it, but I'll never do that. But unless we change that thought, and unless we make a little plan to step outside of that comfort zone and to get there, then we won't do it. So those are just 2 exercises that I like to do to help me to actually find the ways that I want to step outside of my comfort zone.
I want to share something really fast before you do that. So one of the things that I just recently did to step out of my comfort zone was getting on a mountain bike. I am very athletic. I've been very athletic for a long time. I have great cardio. I'm pretty strong, but I have never felt as scared as I felt on that bike. And I knew my body was capable of operating the bike, but witnessing these sharp rocks on both sides of me was horrible. And, the pedals are really sharp. I don't know if you guys have mountain biked, but I had no idea that the pedals were so sharp. You guys, I have scabs all over the back of my legs. I have scabs all over my back. And after 20 miles and 3 trails, I got in the car and I honestly thought to myself, I'm so glad I pushed, even though that really sucked. My point with this is that the confidence I got from trying that, I'm not going to be as scared to get on the next time. When we do something that's out of our comfort zone, it flexes our courage muscles. And our courage muscles are just as important as our physical biceps. Courage is everything when we're trying to reach our goals. And so I want to tell you, like, even though we're sitting here spreading positivity and trying to help inspire people to hit their goals, we have to do that work for ourselves. I have moments where I have to talk myself to the ledge and say, okay, now jump, all the time. This does not come easy. I'm not over here like, oh yeah, I got this figured out. I'm still doing the same things that we're sharing with you. And I know that Alethea is doing the same stuff as well.
And I think the more it scares you, the more that tells us that it's stepping out of our comfort zone, and obviously not dangerous things that are not what we want to do. But the more it scares us, then the more we know, oh gosh, that's one of the things that's going to get me out of my zone.
Yeah.
So I think you've noticed a pattern over, the course of the last few months that we've been doing these, and it all comes down to what's up here and what we can do to train our minds and what we can do to really give ourselves grace and talk positively to ourselves. So again, how we think is going to be how we act. That mean girl voice is in every one of our heads. We just have to turn her off at times and tell her to go away. Actually practice and work on our affirmations. If it's not something that comes naturally to you, like it doesn't to me, make a routine that's going to force us to practice those affirmations and to be able to turn our mind positive when we need to. And then visualization. So if one of our goals in 1 year is to move out of New York, visualize where you're going to be, what your apartment's going to look like, who you're going to be living near, where you're going to go to get your coffee. Like all of those things help us to make it a reality. And we actually end up tricking our brain and it starts believing what we're thinking. And that's what's going to help us to step outside of that zone and make it happen. And then also to act as if, and I love this, it's so simple, but act as if you are already there. So what's it going to feel like when you wake up in that new city or wherever you're going to be? And you act as if, and you really play it over in your head as if you're a child, imagining play with Barbies or whatever it might be. Act as if and visualize that in your head, and that's what's going to get us to where we want to go. Okay, before we get comfortable, does anyone have anything to add or anything that they want to add to their list of stepping outside of their comfort zone?
I would say just if you guys can find something to listen to daily, maybe a TED Talk, even if it's like 3 to 5 minutes, having that as part of your daily practice, it just keeps you in alignment. I noticed for myself, I set the intention of listening to something positive for 10 minutes every morning, and I probably hit that, 4 days a week. I wish I could say every day, but I can tell you if I look at the productivity and mood and vibe, the days that I remember that, it's well worth the time. And really, it's going to be something different for everyone. There's something different that's going to speak to you and what you're currently working on. If either of you guys have any, if you say, hey, I need something like this, text either one of us and we'll send you a list of kind of what our go-tos for that. If I've got somebody in my family that's struggling, I'll listen to something about positivity and connection in a family. If I am feeling like my eating is off, I'll listen to something about energy and food and positivity that way. So I want to encourage all of us to continue to listen to positive affirmations, not just read them, not just write them, but also to listen to them. There's something about the subconscious mind hearing stuff. And that's kind of why we joke and say, you better have that song. When you're in a funk, you better have that song and you got to turn it on.
Yep.
But that's all I have for this part.
I love that. And that reminds me so my new routine with my hikes, Lonnie, you'll appreciate this, is on the way up. I listen to most of my podcasts and some of the things that I've recorded on my voice memos. And then on the way down, it's kind of my reward in a sense, that I get to listen to whatever music I feel is moving me that day. So the way up is my sort of educational part. And then the way down is my just emotional, musical part. So do something like that if you don't have a routine like that, and really take what Cheyenne said about listening over and over to whatever moves you. I think that's really important. Okay.
Just having that go-to,
Yeah.
it becomes kind of like a friend.
Right.
Honestly.
That's so true. And I'm going to just breeze over this quickly because I know that we all have a good handle on this. But again, just the difference between an affirmation that is something that will trick your mind and your brain, not trick, but just train and invite your brain to believe what you're saying, is rather than saying something like, I will maintain my goal weight, you can change that to, I am feeling agile and great at 178, because it's actually acting as if you're already in that state, and then your mind starts believing and putting you in that state. So I will express myself openly and honestly, changing it to, I am expressing myself openly and honestly as if it's happening right now. All right, so now it's time to get comfortable and take it away, Cheyenne.
Okay. So I want everybody to take a nice deep breath. Inhale through your nose and complete exhale through your mouth. And let's do that a couple more times. Deep inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And one more. Inhale and slow exhale. As you begin awareness of your breath, start to notice what thoughts are going through your mind. What are you thinking about? Do not get caught up in your thoughts. Just begin to notice them as they travel across your mind. Let them go as they pass and watch them come and go. Continue to breathe deeply. I will begin to describe settings. Allow your mind to jump immediately to those settings. Let your mind be free to travel and do not become attached to any one setting or image. You are a traveler jumping from place to place in your mind. Now we will begin. Visualize an ocean, a deep blue ocean, a beach with white sand, a seagull flying over the sand, pelicans chasing the current over the waves crashing on the beach, the white sand, the desert, cactus in the desert, blue sky, blue cloudless sky, birds singing, a walled garden, lush, green, long, dirt road stretching towards the horizon, a grove of olive trees, a farmer, a woman pulling water from a well, children playing in the distance, A tall tree stretching up to the sky. Blue sky, warm sun. Mountains in the distance topped with snow. Farmhouse. A stable. Horses enclosed in a corral. Sunset. A flock of blackbirds in the sky. The hoot of an owl. The sounds of crickets. An old front porch swing. A glass of cold lemonade. A warm chair next to a fireplace. A gray cat curled up on a hammock. Cool, dry concrete. White, puffy clouds. A white dove. A burning candle with a flickering flame. Gaze into that burning candle. Feel the warmth. Now take a slow, deep inhale and a long, complete exhale. Slowly open your eyes and think about what image brought you the most peace. That image is a symbol to remind you that peace is always within. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a really good day today.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.